Your Denver Broncos just got a major bonus before a must-win game against the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football. Bonus was the word of the day as Sean Payton dropped it not once, twice, 3 times in his press conference about 3 totally different topics. We get great injury news, that and way more in this video. If you're new to the channel, diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me in the YouTube algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, would you smash that like and subscribe button? So the first piece of just gushing good news here is that Evan Engram is back, baby. So not only we heard reports like over the weekend that he was set to practice once we're back up and playing again, and that is indeed what happened today. It sounds like yesterday he was involved in the walkthrough, and that's fantastic, but no media members were officially allowed to report on that because Sean Payton runs a very, very tight ship. But he didn't just like practice today. He was flying around looking fantastic and just seeing, like, obviously we know back injuries can be terrifying for a skill player, and we're just seeing him fly around and look awesome. I think one of the things that we're going to cover later in the video is that defensives have been just absolutely spamming the Denver Broncos with zone coverage, which really is going to take like someone who knows how to sit down in the open part of that zone and get open, and Evan Engram can be that zone buster, who I think can be like the cheat code for the Denver Broncos breaking out of this offensive slump that we've been in. We just got to remember like what he did in one play in a preseason game here, that in one play he got a quarter of our entire tight end production for a whole year here with Jarrett Stidham. We see his ability after the catch is just phenomenal. And then we saw all throughout his time with the Jacksonville Jaguars just what this guy could be. And I'm not showing you highlights from a decade ago. These are highlights from 2 years ago where you just see like he is a nasty, nasty man and can just defeat a zone coverage, can defeat man-to-man coverage. If you put a linebacker on him, there's not a ton of people who can keep up with Evan Engram. And again, just like his ability after the catch is unequaled on this roster right now. To think that what is the biggest drop in production when one of our starters goes out, it's hard pressed to find a bigger drop in production than on any other position other than tight end. Like the difference between Evan Engram and our next biggest tight end is bigger than any other drop off. Honestly, probably even bigger than quarterback drop off at this point. Like obviously Bo's ceiling is way higher than Jarrett Stidham's, but from a game to game standpoint, I think Stiddy could go in and win us a couple of games, but we just see Lucas Krull is not him yet. And so I am thrilled to death to have him back. I think that is a huge bonus. Next time we heard Sean Payton use the word bonus was just about this entire week. Everything is kicked back a day, which actually helps the game seem like the weekend feel like it's coming quicker, because I was waiting for a practice yesterday and it didn't happen until today. So Sean Payton talked about how much they used that day yesterday where the media doesn't bug them, and they got to do really like a cool walkthrough, and said it was extremely helpful to be able to do that. So you just have a reeling Denver Broncos team after losing 2 heartbreaking games. They still have not trailed a single second in the fourth quarter this entire season, and then somehow are still 1-2. They used that day, obviously, to get this thing back on track, and that's phenomenal. The next thing that we heard that's really a bonus is how much of a bonus JK Dobbins has been on the field and off the field in a way that Sean Payton didn't even expect. So he was asked about JK Dobbins' production, and he was just saying, hey, we knew going into free agency that he was going to be a great player, and that's exactly what we're seeing on this stat, that just through these first 3 games, JK only has 1 less touchdown than Javonte had all last season, and he almost has half as many yards through 3 games as Javonte had all last season. And that's a huge bonus. But then in addition to that, you see J.K. Dobbins coming out and talking about how he's already taken R.J. Harvey under his wing and how important it was for him coming into the league. He had Mark Ingram as one of his mentors, and he was saying, I want to be that for R.J. Harvey. So just a massive, massive addition here in J.K. Dobbins. And we just see like how good is J.K. Dobbins? Well, he is the first ranked running back in all of football when it comes to explosive run rate, meaning you give him the ball 10 times, he's going to have an explosive run on 1.2 of those times, meaning over 10 yards there. He's got 120 explosive run yards, 4th in the league, and then he 54% explosive yards. He's 2nd here. So he is just playing phenomenal, way better than even our wildest dreams. And there are some people like Brandon Perna, who I absolutely adore and love, and he's kind of saying like, hey, why do we only give him 11 carries? I think the only concern with J.K. Dobbins is, can we keep him healthy for an entire season? I actually kind of like the fact that we have not overloaded him yet, because This is what he does all the time. We've talked about ad nauseum that he is on pace to have the highest yards per carry for any running back in NFL history. He just has not hit the minimum number of snaps yet because he is very injury prone. So I like this slow roll of JK Dobbins, getting him all the way through the season there healthy. And so I think Sean Payton is playing that absolutely perfect. And then another bonus here is that Sean Payton really used all of today's practice to really emphasize first and second down production. We know that Bo Nix did not play great on third down last week, but we also know he was in 3rd and 8 to 3rd and 11 on almost every single third down that he went into. And you take any quarterback in the league and put him in a 3rd and 8 to 3rd and 11, and that is a tough place to be. And so just watch for the Broncos to capitalize on those early downs. A couple other bonuses that the Denver Broncos are getting here is when you look at how insane our defense is, it is absolutely wild here. So we're looking here at the Denver Broncos pressure rate, and we fall just behind the Minnesota Vikings in almost every single category. So the first one here is that we are pressuring the quarterback on 44% of their dropbacks. That is just wild. The only team above us is the Minnesota Vikings, who are doing it 44.9, and we're doing it at 44 even. So we're not even a percentage point below them. And I would argue that the Broncos have played way better offensive lines in the Colts and in the Chargers, who have very highly paid offensive lines and very talented offensive lines versus the Vikings got to play against the Bengals and a beat up Bears offensive line. So I think the Broncos offensive line or defensive line is ridiculous. Our pressure to sack ratio is right up there with the best in football as well, meaning like we don't just get back there. We get back there and turn it into a sack. Our sack rate is the 4th highest in the league. Our blitz rate, we're not doing that all the time just by sending the house. And so that's great that we can get pressure just with 4. And then, we're getting pressure on half of our half of quarterback dropbacks when we just rush 4. So that is phenomenal. And then another thing that was interesting kind of to break down here is that the Denver Broncos, when it comes to calling our offense, we are using motion, sending a receiver in motion, the least amount in the league, and it's not even really close. Like, we are doing it on 15% of the times Bo Nix is in shotgun or under center. We're only motioning 15% of the time. The next lowest team is still like 7 percentage points more than us, and the league average is like twice what we are doing. And so I think all of that is because what we're seeing here is that defenses are just coming out in zone coverage, and Sean Payton knows that without sending a motion. And really the only reason for motion is to impact a man coverage, because it lets you switch up the defense. It's a tell for the defense. And so I really am looking for how is Sean Payton going to exploit the zone, knowing that is what defenses are giving Bo Nix right now. And what about a zone coverage is throwing Bo Nix? I know you can be more versatile. It makes him think more. But it is interesting to me that Bo Nix has not picked up exactly like he left off last season, and he's seeing zone coverage a ton and only seeing man coverage 13% of the time. When it's man coverage, I think he knows exactly where to throw and what to do with it. And so just look for our sophomore quarterback to start figuring that out. We know he is incredible studier of the game of football, and he's got the best teachers in the game in Sean Payton. And so just look for them to figure that out. Like, all right, you're going to come with a zone blitz on us. We are going to have the answer to that because we know that's what you're doing all the time. So just an interesting little tip there. And then next advanced graphic that came out that I just thought was absolutely cool to look at here. This is showing where pressure is coming from, and there are 2 things on here that I want to pay special attention to. So first off, the Broncos are down here. Let me see if I can zoom in on it a little. It won't let me, but basically if your offensive lineman is blue, that means you are way below league average for how much pressure is coming from there. And if you're orange or like yellow, that means you're above the league average. So it's incredible here to see that Garrett Bowles is only losing or giving up pressure on 4.7% of edge rushers against him, one of the lowest in the league. Incredible to see that turnaround from a guy who every play you were waiting to hear holding number 72 to now he's one of the best tackles in football statistically, even though we've played against pretty good defenses, right? And then our only gap here would just be the Ben Powers part. This our defensive tackle spot there going up against our left guard is getting 6.7% rush, and then you have both Powers. You have both McGlinchey and Quinn Meinert's here, giving up below the league average in 5% rush and 7% rush here. Now, the one that makes me excited is just looking here that the Bengals, who we have this week, knowing that we have Nick Bonito going up against a left tackle who on 17% of plays is giving up pressure. That is a phenomenal stat here and makes me excited. And then seeing that a blitzing linebacker is getting into the backfield for the Cincinnati Bengals at half of the times they come. So just look for Vance Joseph to truly load up that. And it's both of these edge spots are well below the league average in pressures allowed. I think they're absolutely going to feast on the Cincinnati Bengals. So it is a great time to be a Broncos fan because we're buying low. We're 1-2 and people have counted us out. But I think the two losses that we had that didn't happen until last-second field goals are going to feel way better at the end of the season when we see both the Chargers and the Colts in the hunt for that division, and knowing we played them all the way up until that clock hit 0. The Broncos are making a deep run in the playoffs because we got so many bonuses and so much to believe in. Pulled it short.